It was supposed to be the happiest time of their lives, a dream honeymoon in Queensland, Australia. But just days into the trip, Natasha Ryan vanished without a trace. Her husband, Mark, told the police she simply disappeared during a walk on a cliffside trail, a tragic accident, he said. But something about his story didn't add up. Weeks passed. The search grew desperate. The community rallied. Still, no sign of Natasha. Then, months later, police returned to their home, and what they found behind a hidden wall stunned everyone. Natasha was alive, hiding, afraid. Why did she disappear? And what was Mark hiding? The truth behind this honeymoon mystery would unravel a secret darker than anyone could imagine. Stay with us as we dive deep into the twists and turns of this baffling case, where love, fear, and secrets collide. If someone vanished on their honeymoon, what would be your first suspicion? Accident, kidnapping, or something worse? Let me know what you think in the comments. Welcome back to True Crime Digest, where we uncover the darkest and most mysterious true crime stories from around the world. Today, we're exploring one of Australia's most puzzling missing person cases, a bride who vanished on her honeymoon, only to be found hiding a secret that could destroy everything. She disappeared on her honeymoon. The husband's secret could destroy everything. This story will take you from sunlit beaches to shadowed walls, revealing a truth that no one expected. If you haven't already, hit that subscribe button, and let's dive in. Natasha Ryan was 23 years old, full of life and dreams. Friends described her as warm, caring, and fiercely independent. She worked as a nurse assistant in Brisbane, known for her bright smile and kind heart. Natasha had plans, big plans. She wanted to travel, to help people, and build a life filled with love and laughter. Then, she met Mark. He was charming, attentive, and quickly became the center of her world. Their whirlwind romance ended in a beautiful wedding, surrounded by family and friends. Friends said Natasha was happier than ever. She often spoke about their upcoming honeymoon, a chance to start fresh, to escape the stress of everyday life. But behind the smiles and wedding photos, some close to Natasha whispered about tension. Mark's mood swings, his sudden disappearances, and moments when Natasha seemed withdrawn. On the surface, they looked like the perfect couple. But was something hidden beneath that perfect picture? The night before their honeymoon, Natasha confided in a close friend, "I just want this trip to be perfect, no secrets, no lies." Little did anyone know, those words would echo hauntingly in the days to come. The honeymoon started like a dream. Natasha and Mark landed in Queensland, ready for sun, beaches, and the promise of forever. But just 4 days in, something went terribly wrong. On that fateful afternoon, Mark claimed Natasha went for a walk near the rugged cliffs of the Sunshine Coast. He said she slipped, falling into the thick bush below and disappeared. The search began immediately. Police combed the area, volunteers joined in, but no body was found. Mark's story raised questions. How could someone vanish without a trace in such a popular spot? Why were there no signs of a fall, no blood, no disturbed foliage? Days later, a disturbing detail emerged. Natasha's phone was never found. It was as if she'd vanished into thin air. Friends and family grew frantic. The police issued missing person alerts. Yet every lead seemed to fizzle out. As time passed, suspicion began to swirl. Mark remained the last person to see Natasha alive, but his timeline didn't always line up. One detective later said, "There were inconsistencies in his statements that we just couldn't ignore." Meanwhile, strange reports surfaced. Neighbors heard strange noises from their rented home. Some claimed to have seen Natasha, alive, but afraid. Then, months after Natasha's disappearance, police returned to the Ryans' home, this time with a warrant. What they discovered inside shocked the entire nation. Behind a false wall in the bedroom, hidden from view, was Natasha, alive, terrified, and holding a secret that threatened to destroy her marriage and Mark's future. What could force someone to hide like that, right under their husband's roof? Was she protecting herself, or was something even darker at play? As we unravel this chilling story, keep in mind, the truth is rarely what it seems at first glance. The moment Natasha was found hiding behind that hidden wall, the investigation exploded into a complex web of questions, lies, and secrets. Police had thought the case was a tragic accident or a straightforward disappearance. Instead, they uncovered something far more disturbing, a carefully constructed facade masking a deeper truth. Officers described the scene inside the Ryan home as chilling, a small, claustrophobic space, barely large enough for a person to hide. Natasha appeared thin, frightened, and evasive at first, reluctant to speak. Why had she been hiding for months? Why hadn't she told anyone she was alive? And most importantly, why had she stayed in the same house as her husband, the man she claimed was responsible for her ordeal? As the investigation unfolded, detectives dug into Mark's past. They discovered a pattern of deception, from falsified work records to strange financial transactions. Mark Ryan, once seen as a loving husband, now became the prime suspect. Reports revealed he had been leading a double life, with secrets that made the police question his true motives. Witnesses came forward describing odd behavior. Neighbors recalled loud arguments and tense confrontations. Friends mentioned Mark's controlling nature and Natasha's growing fear in the months before their wedding. Investigators pieced together a timeline using phone records, CCTV footage, and witness testimonies. Mark's alibi for the day Natasha disappeared began to unravel under pressure. One detective said, "We found inconsistencies that didn't match his initial statement. Small details that suggested a cover-up." The media caught wind of the explosive developments. Public interest surged as more questions were raised about how someone could disappear in plain sight and why the truth had been buried for so long. Then came the forensic breakthroughs. Investigators analyzed the hidden room, uncovering evidence of confinement and psychological abuse. Items found suggested Natasha had been held against her will, trapped inside her own home. But without a clear confession or direct evidence linking Mark to a crime, the case grew more complicated. Could Natasha's silence have been a survival mechanism, or was there something else at play? Internet sleuths and armchair detectives flooded forums, debating theories. Was Mark innocent but hiding something? Was Natasha protecting someone else? Or was the truth even darker, involving threats, manipulation, or a dangerous obsession? One thing was clear: this was no ordinary missing persons case. It was a story of betrayal, fear, and secrets that threatened to shatter the very foundation of a marriage. Despite the intense scrutiny, several questions remained unanswered, and the police continued to follow leads, digging deeper into the couple's history and the tangled web of events. As the investigation stretched on, Natasha's own voice slowly emerged through interviews, court records, and private statements, painting a picture of a woman trapped between love and survival, caught in a nightmare she never saw coming. The story forced everyone involved, friends, family, police, and the public, to confront uncomfortable truths about trust, control, and the lengths people will go to hide their darkest secrets. And just when it seemed the pieces might never fit, a shocking twist came to light, something that would redefine everything we thought we knew about the case. Just when the investigation seemed to be grinding forward with no clear resolution, everything changed with a single, startling discovery. For months, Natasha had remained tight-lipped about what had really happened. But behind closed doors, police were finally given a glimpse into the true horror she had endured, a story that shattered the carefully constructed image of her marriage. It turned out Mark's secret life was far darker than anyone could have imagined. Not just lies about jobs or money, but a web of manipulation, coercion, and control that had been slowly suffocating Natasha from the moment they met. Police uncovered messages, texts, emails, and even recording that painted a disturbing picture. Mark's obsession with controlling every aspect of Natasha's life, his jealousy spiraling into intimidation and psychological abuse. One chilling audio clip captured Mark warning Natasha that no one would ever believe her if she tried to escape. His voice was cold, unyielding, a man wielding power like a weapon. But the biggest shock came when officers found evidence suggesting Mark was involved in a second identity, a hidden past that connected him to other disappearances and unsolved cases. Who was the man Natasha married? Was he the man the world thought he was? Or a stranger hiding behind a mask? As forensic teams sifted through the digital breadcrumbs, deleted files, burner phones, encrypted messages, a clearer, darker pattern emerged. Mark was not just a controlling husband. He was a man with a history of stalking, cheating, and manipulating women into silence. The revelation stunned the police and the public alike. Suddenly, Natasha's disappearance was no accident or tragedy. It was part of a sinister pattern of abuse and deception. But what truly broke the case wide open was a hidden journal Natasha kept, pages filled with coded messages, sketches, and desperate pleas for help, hidden in plain sight in her belongings. In her own words, Natasha described the gradual breakdown of her marriage, the love that turned to fear, the smiles that hid bruises, the whispered threats behind closed doors. The journal revealed a secret plan she had devised to escape Mark's control, a plan that required courage, patience, and a risk that could cost her everything. This was the real honeymoon disappearance, not a tragic accident, but a carefully orchestrated escape from a man who would stop at nothing to keep her trapped. As investigators pieced together the final puzzle, they realized Mark had been monitoring the search efforts, manipulating evidence, and lying to the very people trying to save Natasha. The courtroom drama that followed was gripping. The prosecution laid out the damning evidence, while Mark's defense fought to maintain the facade. But in the end, the truth prevailed. Mark was convicted not only for his role in Natasha's disappearance but for a string of related crimes that had remained hidden for years. Natasha, now free, spoke publicly for the first time, sharing her harrowing journey from victim to survivor, a voice for countless others silenced by fear. Yet even with justice served, some questions remain. How many more victims are out there? How many perfect marriages hide dark secrets? And perhaps the most haunting question of all, what price did Natasha pay for the truth, and could anyone else have survived what she endured? With Mark's conviction, the courtroom finally closed on one chapter of this chilling case, but the ripples of what happened continued to affect everyone involved. Natasha's family, who had spent months in anguish not knowing her fate, now faced a slow, painful process of healing. Interviews reveal how their hopes swung between despair and relief, and how the truth changed everything they thought they knew about the man who had entered their lives. For Natasha, freedom came with its own challenges. Years of captivity and psychological abuse left scars that no prison bars could contain. She entered therapy, surrounded by a community of survivors who understood the complexity of trauma and the strength it takes to reclaim one's life. The case also sparked wider conversations about abuse hidden behind closed doors, how easily trust can be weaponized, and how survivors often suffer in silence long before the world takes notice. Law enforcement officials reflected on the investigation, acknowledging how vital persistence and careful attention to small details had been. This wasn't just a missing persons case, it was a lesson in listening to the unheard, reading between the lines. But even now, some mysteries linger. What exactly happened in those months Natasha was hidden away? Were there others who suffered in silence, trapped in similar situations? Mark's trial exposed a dark pattern of manipulation that extended far beyond one marriage, prompting renewed calls for better protection, awareness, and support for victims of coercive control. Meanwhile, Natasha has become a quiet advocate, using her voice to shine light on abuse and to remind the world that escaping darkness is possible, even when hope seems lost. Her story has inspired countless others to come forward, but it also serves as a haunting reminder that evil can wear many faces and that vigilance and empathy are crucial to stopping it. This case changed lives, not just Natasha's and Mark's, but the community around them, the law enforcement officers who pursued justice, and the strangers who followed the story from afar. It's a story about resilience, courage, and the complicated truth that sometimes, the greatest battles happen far from the public eye. Even after the courtroom doors closed and the headlines faded, one chilling detail remains: Natasha's wedding ring was never found. That small band, a symbol of love turned to nightmare, disappeared without a trace. Was it lost in the chaos, or did it hold a secret Mark wanted to erase forever? To this day, the question hangs in the air: what really happened during those final hours of the honeymoon? Was Natasha's escape as clean as it seemed, or is there more hidden beneath the surface? Some say the truth is buried deeper than anyone knows, waiting for the next piece to fall into place. If you could ask Natasha one question, what would it be? And what do you think she's never told us? Comment below with your theories, and don't forget to subscribe for more gripping true crime stories that dive beyond the headlines.